Hello and welcome to FinTech Impact. I'm your host, Jason Pereira. Today on the show, I have Jessie Vaid, founder and CEO of ReadyWhen Tech Inc. ReadyWhen is a digital legacy manager that helps you basically put all your valuable information in one place so that when the worst happens, that your family is going to have a head start in settling your affairs. And not just that, but also all kinds of useful tools and useful use cases while you're alive. So we're going to dive into that in a minute. And here's my interview with Jessie. Jessie, thanks for taking the time today.
Thanks very much, Jason. Thanks for having me on your show.
My pleasure. So Jessie Vaid of ReadyWhen Technologies, talk to me about ReadyWhen.
Sure. Thanks, Jason. So we'll start with the typical elevator pitch about what ReadyWhen is all about. And what ReadyWhen is basically when we came into building this solution was to be able to provide peace of mind for your loved ones and your executors when you've passed away. So the premise behind it is that you build your estate as you are alive so that when the time does come, that all the information that is required to settle your estate is in one central location. And so when we say that, we talk about, all your asset information, all your legal documents, health information that may be required, your digital footprint today, and most importantly, shared with the individuals that would need that information upon your passing. And one might say, well, I'm not going to die today or tomorrow. Well, first of all, it's never is known as to when you're going to pass away, but it's also an important life planning tool so that your spouse or your children know where your affairs are. I mean, doing in the line of work that I've been doing for almost 20 years, you'd be amazed at how much information is not shared between partners, and not because they don't want to share it, but they're just so busy, right? So they might not know who the tenant of their rental property is. They might not know about that bank account when they opened up as a teenager. So things like that, I think, are important to share, and we just don't get around to sharing that information with the ones that might need that information. And I think we've done a great job of educating our users to know what to share, when to share, and what needs to be done.
So lots to digest there before we get into the history. And I will say a couple of things here. Yes, I'm dealing with a couple of estates right now. Anyone who's ever had to deal with an estate, or better yet, when someone asks you if you can be their executor, the only answer is no. And if the answer has to be yes, then the response better be, but I swear to God, you better be organized. Otherwise, I'm going to dig you up and I'm going to beat you up. Because frankly, it is just this massive, immense basically administrative project. So you have that. Now, preparation for it, you're right. Like, even if people have the best of intentions, the reality is you're combining, I like to say, we're combining the concept of work with the concept of administration and organizing documents. Two things people hate. So, the reality is that there's a lot of resistance. And I think when we talked about this previously, when framed solely around just the estate that big need case, which is valuable, people get turned off. But when you start talking about the benefits while they're alive, then there's lots of them. So before we dive into that, because I have to go on my diatribe because I've done this on both podcasts about this a million times now, tell us about the origin. Like, what was the inspiration that led to the genesis of ReadyWhen?
Sure. Thanks, Jason. So I've been practicing in providing legal documentation from estate planning to real estate documents since 2004. So my background is a notary public in British Columbia. So for those that don't know what notaries do in British Columbia, what we do is we practice a facet of law, which is primarily focused on real estate transactions and also estate planning. So I've been doing that since 2004. And we've always created estate planning documents, may it be wills, power of attorneys, representation agreements for health. We've always provided those documents, created them for our clients, and we've given them over across my desk to my clients. And we've said, okay, keep these safe. But remember, not only will your executor and your loved ones need this, but they'll also need all your asset information and now your digital footprint. And that's going to actually be what's required to settle the estate. So in late 2019, I had the usual questions coming from my clients. When should I make a will? Why should I make a will? When do I need a power of attorney? What is a power of attorney? And then clients coming to me with the unfortunate loss of a loved one or being an executor and saying, okay, what do I do now? I've lost my spouse. I'm an executor. I don't even know what this is. I agreed to be the executor, but I had no idea what the job was going to entail. So what do I do now? And so I was like, there's got to be a better way of collecting this information and disseminating this information amongst those that would require it. And so I started mapping out what I thought we would need to build this solution. At that point, I started discussion with my co-founder, Sachin Bala. And at that time, he had unfortunately lost both of his parents. And so he's actually gone through exactly that, selling the estate. And he knew the issues and problems around surrounding being that executor in that probate process. So he adds a lot of value from a real life example, and is obviously his strong marketing background. And then we engaged a strong technical, Gavin here, our co-founder and CTO as well, to actually build it. And he was just, I think, lured through the idea of what we were trying to build here as well, and really wanted to build this solution that we could provide to Canadians so that it could be that peace of mind, knowing that if you passed away, that everything would be in one central location. And so I think that's the amorphous of what we did. So in 2019, we got together and worked with a company, local company, Applied Digital in Gotham, who supported us since day one. And he helped us build a working prototype. And what we did is we took that prototype and we shared it amongst colleagues of mine, also accountants, financial planners, and the individual that would possibly be using our platform. And they really were able to relate with the solution and say, yeah, you know what, I need something like this to organize my life. And then in 2020 is when we got the prototype built. And then late 2020 is when we actually released our MVP, and early into 2021. And then 2021 was primarily getting the word out and getting users into the system. And now, obviously, today we were able to announce our partnership with Prosper by Sun Life.
Excellent. So we'll get into the Prosper by Sun Life. That's the big announcement that just happened the day before we recorded this. So that's big news. So yeah, just to harp on the entire what's involved with this. I mean, my God, I never understand people who fight to want to be the executor, because it's like, please take it. I could care less, because it's just no thank you. So like I said, immense project, like with tons of data. So if you're ready, no surprise, you lived the problem. You said there must be a better way, like is the genesis of so many of these companies I talked to. And sure enough, you set out to create one. So talk to me about initial reaction from people when you went out to market. Like, did that differ from what you thought it would? Like, what kind of changes happened that basically happened early on that eventually led to some of these bigger deals?
Yeah, I think we've learned a lot in the last almost 2 years now. And I think, Jason, you even, when we've talked previously, identified some of the pitfalls and issues of building and providing a solution like this out to the marketplace. So once we got the product to market, the feedback has been very, very consistent amongst professionals. So our business model is B2B2C, and not to try to sell, one license at a time. Of course, we have that option through our website, but we know that we need to get to the large corporations, we need to get to MGAs, and we need to get the buy-in from the professionals. Until we become that household name within Canada, no one's not going to know about ReadyWhen. But if you are an individual using professional services, may it be a legal professional, a financial advisor, or an accountant, and they're offering the ReadyWhen service, you're going to be a little bit more inclined into understanding what it is. So once we started getting the product out to educating the professionals on our solution, it is very, very consistent in them understanding the value of this product. Now, the clients using it is a different thing. But like you said, if I said to you, especially someone like yourself that's been through the process of being an executor, and I said, hey, I can provide you a solution with everything there. And so when the time comes that you're an executor, that it's all there, what do you think? You'd be like, of course I want something like this. So as far as the solution of what we envisioned and what we executed and when we got to market has been very consistent in that professionals knowing that they themselves would like the solution because of our functionality that allows a financial advisor or a legal professional or an accountant to be a part of their client's team so that they can also be involved in ensuring that their accounts are up to date, has been very consistent in that they want a solution like this to be used by their clients.
So, and in general, I mean, we talked about this before, but the general challenge and feedback you must get off the bat every time is that, look, document storage online and data storage online is a commodity, right? And a very cheap one, right? You get X number of gigs for free if you split your time between Dropbox and OneDrive and everything else. But a solution that's purpose-built for this problem, right? Like, tell me how you've applied, what kind of features you've applied to the software to basically enable this to serve its purpose beyond that of just basic document storage.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, that comes up in presentations. Okay, well, why couldn't I just use a Dropbox or a Google Sheet or a spreadsheet for that matter to save all this information? Well, my response typically is, okay, well, first of all, have you done that? Okay. Second of all, do you believe that all the information, if you passed away tomorrow, that your executor could pick up that spreadsheet or that document and settle that estate within a fraction of the time that it typically gets to settle an estate? And usually the response is, yeah, you're probably right. It's probably not updated and so forth. So it's probably been a year since I did it, or it's been 3 years, or it's been, when the kids were young and I put that information together. So what have we done in the product to actually assist with individuals? So first of all, when you first come into our product, we've really tried to have that onboarding experience not overwhelming. When you first come into it, there's a lot of information that you can store within ReadyWhen. So what we did is we built a unique onboarding wizard to really identify, where do you start, and not overbear the user with, oh my God, I've got all this information. Where do I start and how do I get started? So when you first come in, you can identify certain things that you have. I've got 3 properties. I've got 2 bank accounts. I've got 4 social media accounts and so forth. So you kind of come in there, and then what that does is that creates kind of like a to-do list for you. So now you're like, okay, well, I'm gonna kind of get this. And then as you have that to-do list, we also have kind of like a progress bar. So what happens is as you start completing this to-do list, you're seeing, hey, I'm actually getting somewhere. I'm actually adding to it. And sooner or later, this is going to get completed. So we've done that. We've also, what we've purchased with our software is a product through Salesforce, which is called Marketing Cloud. And what that does is it really kind of nudges you in the right direction. And so, what our software is that we do not get to see the information that you've uploaded, but we know what things you've filled out and what things you haven't filled out. So we can actually nudge you and say, okay, well, it looks like, you haven't uploaded your life insurance policy, or do you have a life insurance policy? You haven't uploaded your digital accounts. More importantly, you haven't added any team members. So we want to nudge you to add your executor to it. We want you to add your spouse to it. And then we've also have this feature, what's called Ready Mode. Ready Mode is after you passed away, information that someone would need after you pass away, which would include things like funeral arrangements, immediate actions. My brother owes me X amount of money. Contact my financial advisor. Hey, we got to contact these people in Australia. It also includes the ability to leave notes to loved ones, pictures to loved ones, and also videos to loved ones. So, having that ability to have that final message that, taped and released only upon your passing to your children or to your spouse. My video was to my son that if I passed away, and maybe I don't get a chance to show you, learn how to shave. So that peace of mind that if I passed away, I've released that information to, whoever might need it. And so we're really trying to be an educator in the platform of not only knowing what needs to go into there, but beyond that, all that information there. When we go into conversations, a lot of the time people don't realize their amassed digital footprint that they have now. So you have, back in the day, I was an executor many, many years ago, and I could actually wait for the mail and be an executor. And that's how I was able to complete my scavenger hunt and that treasure, chasing all that information. But now it's all online. How much mail do you actually get now physically to your office or to your home? Everything is digital. So what about all your digital accounts that you may have? What about your rewards points? And I think this one really hits home with people is that, what about those Aeroplan points? What about those credit card rewards points that if you don't use them or if you don't transfer them, who wins? Not you and I, it's those companies, right? And so,
and a lot of those expire after time, right? So if you don't do it, they're just going to disappear.
So, there's and I'm sure you've had conversations, Jason, when you're talking to clients, is that if you do not share this information, you are leaving literally money on the table, literally. And it might be accounts that become dormant. Like there's millions of dollars that go into the coffers of the Bank of Canada because accounts are never recovered or people just don't know about it. And then that same goes with rewards points. And of course, we've watched those crypto movies now and those Netflix specials of crypto keys and that information. As that gets more and more, people are purchasing those. If you're not leaving that information, well, where that information, all that money is going to be lost as well.
Yeah, the crypto space is interesting. I mean, honestly, as much as I try to keep this stuff up to date, I do pity anyone who has to deal with my estate right now because the number of just beta testing accounts I'm on and all because other things is just a bit much. I think I've got money at a little about $10 at every challenger bank in the country. So that said, this is a bigger problem than most people realize. I think the biggest trigger for most people is it happened to them, right? Like somebody died, they have to be an executor. They're like, oh my God, why would I ever put anyone through this? I need to do something, right? So that is definitely the way to basically make people work. Now, let's talk a little bit about your distribution and some of the bigger deals you've done. So you've gone through, again, your B2B2C. So you've gone through advisors, insurance brokerages, stuff like that. And the big one, which you just announced the other day, and by the time this airs, it'll be about 2 months old. But that's how far ahead of this I am, people, is the deal with Sun Life for their Prosper program. So talk to me about their Prosper program and how you fit into it.
So what Prosper by Sun Life, it's a new digital platform that they've released whereby they're focusing in on the individual that wants kind of a hybrid digital solution, also being able to speak to an advisor and get guidance and direction from a real life person on the other side. So this digital solution kind of focuses on wealth, insurance, and wellness, and kind of have this wheel, and we fit definitely nicely in wealth and wellness, whereby we're also thinking about how to protect someone. So they're trying to protect the individual with planning for the future. And then along comes ReadyWhen to be able to house all that information in one central location. And so we've been working several months with Prosper by Sun Life, not only on them getting their product out to market, but then being an integral part of that solution. And so what the offering is currently is as you register for Prosper by Sun Life, which is a free tool, you will receive a ReadyWhen account, which has a $50 value attributed to it. So, and that I should preface that is only offered currently on English-speaking provinces.
Good. That's a wonderful land for you and a great distribution channel. So this is the start of it. Like, where do you see it going from here? Is it just continuing to push into the estate market and finding other methods of distribution? Do you have larger aspirations beyond this market? Like, how do you see it panning out?
We'll kind of go back to conversations that we've had previously, Jason. I think
we're leading you into it. Sorry.
What's that?
I was leading you into it.
Thank you. So it comes to okay, we had to start somewhere. So you and I both know that majority of Canadians need a product like ours, what we've built, or a similar product where it houses all that information, because when the time comes, people are going on that scavenger hunt. So not only are they stressed about the loss of the loved one, but now they're having to deal with picking up all these pieces and trying to find all these pieces. So we had to start with there. So now I think what we've done is we've built a solid platform that houses all that information. Now, the next thing is getting that information into the product. And so what we're focusing in now are tools for professionals and also the product itself to actually have that information frictionlessly flow into ReadyWhen, so that the user, when they come into the product, those documents are already there. So late last year, we also released a product so now we're building admin products for professionals. So we released a portal whereby professionals, legal professionals, and also financial advisors could actually upload certain documents into the user's ReadyWhen account. So when Jason logs into his ReadyWhen account, his property documents are already there. His life insurance documents are already there. His estate planning, his will, his power of attorney are already in there. So now there's a little bit of sense of completion already, because I've already have some of the documents into my ReadyWhen account. So our focus now is primarily on building tools to frictionlessly get the documents into one's ReadyWhen account. So, as we progress with open banking, as we progress with other open APIs, our goal is to have the information easily flow into your ReadyWhen account. So now you purchase a new house, now my documents in there. Now that I purchased a new life insurance policy, it automatically flows into ReadyWhen. So I think our goal now is to really work on ensuring that the information is easily flowing into ReadyWhen and so on. So feels like it's not as cumbersome for the user.
So we talked about how this all kind of comes together, what you're putting in, what your distribution channels are, how people utilize it, how it differentiates from just general storage. Talk to me about what happens when that terrible day happens where the loved one is lost, right? The loved one is lost. This information's here. What's the process for how they get access to it? Did they have access before? How does it work?
Sure. So again, kind of comes back to that marketing cloud. So we are kind of pushing users to ensure that they've added a team member, right? Because if you don't have someone else accessing your information, then it's like you died without having ReadyWhen anyways. So we're pushing you to add team members. And with the way we've set up the security permissions and adding team members, you have clients that don't want to share any information while they're alive. And then there's individuals that only want to share certain information after they've passed away. So you control the settings of who gets information while you're alive and then who gets it once you've passed away. Once you're setting up those team members, you also have the ability to allow them to basically trigger ready mode, which is what we talked about when someone passes away. So if I designate my spouse, which her name is Mishan, if I make her a team member and then like my brother, so I've got Mishan and Jimmy, which is my brother, a part of my team, what happens is they have the ability to basically trigger ready mode. So what they would do currently is they would let our customer support know that, Jessie's passed away. Once that's done, our system would then try to reach out to Jessie. We're hoping that my wife and brother are in cahoots of trying to get my estate. But what would happen is that would then initiate emails out to support, would try to reach out to Jessie. Jessie has now passed away within 24 hours. Basically, what would happen is the system would go into a view-only state. Reason being is that we could not wait for a death certificate because in certain cultures, the funeral has to happen within a certain amount of time and so forth. And you could have funeral arrangements, you could have music in there that you want, to be played at funeral. So we couldn't wait till after the death certificate was issued. And so we've got to take steps, and it is labor intense on our end because it is going to be somewhat manual process to ensure that someone's passed away. But again, you're hoping that the individual, as they're using their account, that they're setting up team members that would help with the assisting of triggering the ready mode and putting it into a view-only state.
Yeah, it's interesting. These are the things that don't occur to you unless you're in the space, like the dynamics of like, well, if you're carrying all this kind of last rites, I want this at my funeral type stuff. You can't, wait until it's time to process the estate because it's too late by then, right? And, unless you're again, this is one of those things where there's one of the other answers for why a Dropbox or a OneDrive doesn't work. It's because you're not accounting for that very specific verticals, individual dynamics, and different religious preferences or cultural preferences. Like this is where you start making, this is why niche practices make money. I gotta tell you. So it makes sense. Before we wrap up, there's 3 questions I ask everybody to end on a positive note. The first is, if you had one wish for something you can change in your company or the industry as a whole, what would it be?
I think for us as well, twofold. One is for professionals and one is for the users. Is for professionals to understand the value of having that information in one central location and not being, only driven by their current solutions and not looking at new innovative solutions that will add value in the future. It might not be today that the value is seen, but the value is going to be definitely seen when that spouse calls them and says, "Hey, Jason, you're the advisor. Can you help me? I don't know where to start."
Yeah, and it's the reality, as I say, if you're not there for the hardest times of a client's life, you're not earning it. And frankly, this is one of those things that will make that period easy.
Yeah.
So, second question for you. What's been the biggest challenge to date in getting the company to where it is today?
I think, like all challenges, is like it's speed wins when you're trying to develop a product into a new market. You and I, Jason, I'm sure you've seen products, in the past that have been kind of something like this that have failed. And I think what we've done uniquely is that we've meshed, matter expertise with myself, with Sachin with his marketing experience, and then Gavin with his technical experience about getting this product out the door and getting it into the hands of Canadians. And I think, we started pre-COVID. And obviously once COVID hit, it accelerated the conversations that are being had of end of life today than they were happening prior to that. And so for us right now is there wasn't as many players probably in early 20 or late 2019 as they were in mid 2020 and late 2020 in this space. You see many companies in the US now, but a lot of those companies that are set up are being created are from individuals that have gone through the process of losing someone, not from matter experts with marketing and with technical. So I think that's one thing that we've done really well together within ReadyWhen. The biggest challenge is getting this product out, getting the professionals to understand it, and ensuring that it's getting into the hands of Canadians. And I think, with our partnership with Prosper by Sun Life, I think we're headed in the right direction and definitely making steps into ensuring that Canadians understand the value of a solution like ReadyWhen.
Yeah, I think I told you this. I swear for for a period of like 4 to 6 months there, it was like estate document platform system like period for me. It was like I was getting reached out to every 3 weeks with a different solution. I think by the time we met, I'm like, you're like number 6 guy. But that said, I mean, some have gotten somewhere, some have gotten nowhere. It's the normal idea. It's very, especially when you said, I think COVID was a really galvanizing moment for this. It was, oh my God, like I just had to go through this. So you have thousands of people go through the same experience at a short period of time. They're all going to have a difficult time, and they're all going to, at least a handful of those are going to say, something's got to be done. And this would have helped a lot of people. So it's not surprising, but you're right. The entire speed thing, for those of you who don't know the famous Jeff Bezos saying, it's in the current world, your only advantage is speed. So execution is everything. And then the last question for you is, what excites you the most about what it is you're working on and keeps you getting up in the morning to keep on fighting the good fight that is entrepreneurship?
Well, if you don't sleep, you don't have to get up. I guess that's the first thing. So if you're not sleeping,
if I could go without sleep, I'd be so much more productive.
Yeah. So I think that's the first. Sleep is great. I think for us, first of all, it's our team. I think I'm motivated by our team. We've just had a few more hires. And I think seeing how motivated and excited they are about building what we're doing here really excites me and motivates me. So I think my team first and foremost. And then as we are building and creating these partnerships, not only with the Sun Lifes of the world, but other organizations, and them seeing the value of what was in my head in 2019, and them saying, you know what, Jessie and team, we really do need a solution like this. We want the solution for our clients. I think that is really gratifying, and seeing the validation in the marketplace of the professionals using it. And then ultimately, we get feedback now from end users saying, I'm so at peace of mind knowing that my daughter's going to be taken care of after I pass away, because I wasn't able to, or I did not know where I needed to leave this information. And that's almost, not a direct verbatim quote, but a quote that we just received just a couple of weeks ago. And I think that helps me get up in the morning and be motivated to keep building and adding to this platform.
So, Jessie, thank you so much for your time. I greatly appreciate this. And basically, anyone who wants to check out ReadyWhen, feel free. You can even get how long did they get for as part of the Sun Life program?
Go to Prosper by Sun Life. You get a free ReadyWhen account for 1 year. So it's not even that you now need to purchase my software. Now you can go to Prosper and ultimately get a ReadyWhen account at a $50 value for free.
There you go. There's your 12-month trial. My goodness. Yeah. So basically, by all means, check it out. Jessie, thanks again.
Thank you very much, Jason. I appreciate it.
So that was today's episode of FinTech Impact. I hope you enjoyed that. And as always, if you enjoy this podcast, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Spotify, and wherever it is you get your podcast. And until next time, take care.
This podcast was brought to you by Woodgate Financial, an award-winning financial planning firm catering to high net worth individuals and their families. To learn more, go to woodgate.com. You can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play, or find more episodes at jasonpereira.ca.